I've been wanting to do a sweater nail set, but I didn't want to do the typical holiday slash winter mani. So how early is too early to be starting on Valentine's Day manis? Valentine's Day is my second favorite holiday behind Halloween, of course, and I absolutely love doing nail themed sets, decorating the house, all the fun stuff involved. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I do this Valentine's Day themed sweater nail set. So if that's something you want to see, stick around and we'll get into it. The powders I'm going to be using for today's mani are all from ManiBoss, and I'm starting with Liv Lav Luv, which is a gorgeous lavender color. I'll also be using ManiBoss liquids for the mani. Now, I will say for a sweater nail, you do need solid powders. Liv Lav Luv is a lavender, but it does have a very slight shimmer to it, but it's not enough shimmer to impact the sweater nail, which is why I went ahead and used it, because I just love this color so much. So I'm just going to do two sweater nails in total. There's going to be Liv Lav Luv on my middle finger, and then I'm going to use Sour Grapes on my ring finger, and those will be the two sweater nails. I didn't want to go too crazy with the sweater nails, so I'm just sticking with the two, and then of course I had to throw in a glitter because who doesn't love glitter? So this is just going to be my normal dip process up until after I finish filing and buffing. So whatever process you do for dip, just do that until you're done filing and buffing, and then we can kind of get into how I do my sweater nail. For me, my regular dip process is 2 full layers of dip in color. So you saw me finish up my first layer of color. So I finished that, my dip base fully dried. So I dusted off the excess powder. So now I'm starting in with my second layer. So I'm applying a thin, even layer of dip base to my entire nail. So I want to make sure I've got everything fully covered. And then I'm going to dip back into that color. Once that's dry, I'm going to dust off the excess powder. And I personally like to do a third layer capping in clear rather than doing a third layer in color. I mean, really, it's a matter of personal preference. You could stop there at your second dip of color and activate, or you could cap in clear, or you could do a third layer of color, whatever you want to do. But personally, for me, I like to cap in clear because I don't want to risk my color looking splotchy if I file and buff directly on the color. So I prefer to file and buff on the clear. But I'm not going to do that just yet because I'm going to use Sour Grapes as my second solid nail. This is going to be my ring finger. Now, Solid Grapes is another purple. It's more of a lilac purple, and it does also have a very small hint of shimmer, but it's solid enough that I can use it for a sweater nail. So this is going to be my same process as well of 2 dips of Sour Grapes, full dips of Sour Grapes. And then once I'm done with that, then I will cap both the nails in clear before I get into my glitter.
Invincible.
now that my solid nails are activated, I'm going to go ahead and move on to my glitter, which is I'm a Fig Deal, which is such a pretty purple glitter, and I love the way it pairs with my other purples. Now I went ahead and activated the solid nails because that prevents contamination of a glitter on my solid nails. If you didn't activate your nails and you started working with a glitter, if a stray glitter got on your solid nail, it could potentially stick to it to where you couldn't get it off unless you filed it off, which that would, if you're like me, it would bug you every time you looked at the nail. But if you go ahead and activate the nails, the glitters, even though it may touch the nail, will not stick to an activated nail. I'm only going to show you one layer of the glitter because I want to get into the sweater nail process, but I did end up doing 2 layers of glitter, capping in clear, activating, and then filed and buff off camera. So I'm going to let you watch and then I'll be back after I finish filing and buffing. Ideally for a sweater nail, you would have the same color gel as the base of your nails, but since I work with powders, I don't have that, so I'm working with the gels I have and the ones that are closest to my nail color. So these are 2 gels from iGel Beauty, and I'm starting with Lavender Cupcake, and I'm just applying a little dollop of that on my resin palette. I do want the gel to be a little bit thicker to create that 3D effect of the sweater nail. So since this is going to go on my Sour Grapes nail, my ring finger, I'm just going to pour a little bit of the powder and mix it in with the gel. Now I accidentally got too much powder, so it's way too thick. So I'm going to add more gel. It's kind of a trial and error to find the right consistency. Now if I had the same color gel as the base of my nails, I could just apply some clear acrylic powder just to make it a little bit thicker. But since I don't have the same color, I'm just using the powder that I use just to get a little closer in color to my base. Once I have the consistency I want for the gels, I'm going to create 3D hearts on my ring finger. So I like to use a dotting tool for the hearts, and what I like to do is I like to create 2 dots on my nail. I want them close to each other but not touching. So I'm going to do a total of 3 hearts on the nail. So I'm going to go ahead and place those dots for the start of the hearts, but I'm not going to finish them until I'm done creating those dots for the 3 hearts. So I kind of have to visualize where I want the hearts to make sure I have enough room to complete the hearts. I mean, you can do 1 heart at a time, but I figured instead of switching tools between my dotting tool and the liner brush, I'd go ahead and do everything with my dotting tool and then finish with my liner brush. So to complete the heart, I'm going to start at one of the dots and draw downwards towards like a point. So that's going to be the end of the heart. And I'm going to do the same for the other dot that's right next to it. I'm going to draw downwards and I'm going to connect them to make that point. And then I will start filling in a little bit just to make it a little more shaped and a little more cohesive of a heart. So I can kind of adjust as needed. And this is why I like to use gels, is I have plenty of time to work with it. But you can see that the gel is a little bit thicker because I mixed in that powder, which makes it so much easier to work with. I find for me, this is the easiest process to draw hearts, but if you have some other way, by all means, go ahead and do that. You can make it however you want it to look. And if you do a different process, share with me what your process is, because I'm curious what that is and if it'll be easier. And of course, however you want your nail to look is personal preference. So you can make the hearts larger and do less of them. You can make them smaller and do more of them, whatever you'd like to do. So as I'm finishing up the second heart, I realized that you can see in the bottom corner that my 2 dots for my third heart bled together, which doesn't create a good heart. So I'm going to take this brush and a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to wipe it away because as of right now, my gel is still wet. I have not cured it. So I'm just going to wipe away and start again, which is another reason why I love working with gels. So I'm going to finish this third heart and then I'm going to draw like random polka dots along my nail just to fill in some of that blank space and kind of complete that look. After I'm happy with the design, my gel is still wet. I have not cured. I'm going to take my clear dip powder and I'm going to pour that over the wet gel. And I want it to sit for a couple seconds to fully absorb. If I tap off the powder and it still looks a little wet, pour over more clear dip powder. So you want your gel to look completely matte. You don't want to see any wet gel. And that's how you get the best sweater look. So once I'm happy with that, once everything's fully absorbed, I'm going to give my nails a full cure for 60 seconds in my lamp. Once I'm fully cured, I'm going to scrub off the excess powder and then I'm going to work on my middle finger next, which is going to be more of a traditional sweater nail look. So I'm going to be using as my gel from iGel Beauty, Lucious Lavender. So I'm just applying a dollop of that to my resin palette. And I would recommend that you don't pour the powder directly from the jar because you'll see I accidentally pour way too much. So then I have to adjust a lot and use a lot more gel than I actually needed, which is a little wasteful. So I would recommend you use like a small spoon or a swatch stick or something just so you could get a little bit of powder rather than pouring directly because I have way too much. So I'm just going to apply a little more gel, mix it in, and then I'm actually not going to try to absorb all that powder because it's just way too much. I could have just dusted it off, but I left it as is, and I created just like a little pool in the middle, which is what I'm going to use for my art. I'm going to start my design with 3 hearts down the center of my nail. I try to make them all the same size, but they don't end up being, which is fine. But it's going to be the same process I used to draw hearts that I did on my ring finger. Once I finish with the hearts down the center of my nail, I haven't cured yet. The gel is still wet because I haven't poured over the powder. So I'm going to create lines on both sides of the hearts, and it's just going to be a long vertical line on each side of that center of hearts. I do find that for long straight lines, you get straighter lines when you're using a longer brush. So this is actually, I believe, my 12mm liner brush from the Painted Desert. So once I'm happy with the way those lines look, they're the right thickness and they look straight enough, I'm going to go back to my shorter liner brush, and then I'm just going to create tick marks on the other side of that line where there's blank space between that line and my sidewall. So they're just going to be like little slanted lines. I can, you know, space them out however I want. I'm going to make them kind of even, but they don't actually work out because I end up doing more tick marks on the right side of my nail than my left side of my nail, but just don't look closely and you won't be able to notice. So once I have those tick marks completed, remember my gel's still wet, then I'm going to take my clear dip powder and then I'm going to pour that over the wet gel. And I want to make sure that my gel is, or my powder is fully absorbed into the gel. I want it to look as matte as possible. So I'm going to let it sit for a couple seconds and then I may pour over 1 or 2 more times just to make sure everything is fully absorbed. And then once it is, I will give it a cure in my lamp for 60 seconds. My sweater nails don't require a top coat, but my glitter nails do. I want them to shine as much as possible, so I'm using my ManiBoss 2-in-1 gel base and top coat. So I'm going to top coat those nails and give them a full cure for 60 seconds. And as always, I'm going to finish off my mani by rehydrating my cuticles with my Scales of Mermaid cuticle oil. I'm using the scent Your Berry Sweet, which is one of my favorites. I love the berry scent of it, and I thought it fit well with the theme of like my Valentine's Day mani. So I applied that liberally because my hands are looking crusty, so I'm just going to rub that in thoroughly to my cuticle area. And then I know I do have matte nails and those sweater nails, so they are going to look really oily because I don't worry about getting oil on them. So I take a lint-free wipe and some isopropyl alcohol and I wipe my nail down, and once that dries, your nails are matte again. So here we are with the finished look. One thing I forgot to mention, which I don't want to go back and re-record, so hopefully you're still watching, is after I finished filing and buffing, I could have applied a matte gel top coat and cured that and then did my sweater nail on top of that. But because my nails were smooth after my filing and buffing, I didn't have any scratch marks, I didn't feel the need for that additional layer. But if you're more of a like, I have to have a top coat, you can apply your matte gel top coat and then do your sweater nail on top of that. So I just wanted to go ahead and mention that. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. It lets me know to continue creating content like this, and it also helps YouTube recommend me to others, which helps grow my channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I upload content every Monday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.